In the skies over Vietnam, the most advanced air force in history was humiliated by an enemy that initially possessed 0 jets. This is the story of how a ragtag fleet of Soviet cast-offs forced the United States to completely rewrite the book on aerial warfare. North American T-28 Trojan. To understand this underdog story, we have to start with a supreme irony. The North Vietnamese Air Force's first true fighter was actually designed in the United States. Originally a trainer used by the Royal Lao Air Force, a specific T-28 was flown to North Vietnam by a defecting pilot in 1963, where it was immediately refurbished and pressed into combat service. While it was a propeller-driven relic compared to the jets arriving later, its slow speed and maneuverability made it surprisingly effective for ground attack and hunting slow transport planes. This single aircraft is credited with shooting down an American C-123 Provider in 1964, marking one of the first aerial victories for the North and proving that even captured technology could draw blood. Next, Antonov An-2 Colt. On paper, this massive Soviet biplane looked like a farming tool from the 1940s, but the North Vietnamese used it for one of the most bizarre air raids in history. The An-2 was slow, flying at barely 100 miles per hour, which actually made it invisible to modern Doppler radars designed to track supersonic jets. Its fabric-covered wings and ability to take off from short dirt strips allowed it to supply remote guerrilla bases and, famously, to attack the secret American radar installation at Lima Site 85 in Laos. During that raid, these biplanes dropped mortar rounds by hand and fired unguided rockets, only to be chased down and shot out of the sky by a CIA Air America helicopter. A chaotic, desperate clash that highlighted the An-2's role as a workhorse of the unconventional war. Moving on, MiG-17 Fresco. If the Americans were the heavyweights, the MiG-17 was the flyweight boxer that refused to stay down. Subsonic and lacking sophisticated radar, it was theoretically obsolete when it faced off against the supersonic F-4 Phantom, but it possessed a dangerously tight turning radius that modern jets couldn't match. Vietnamese pilots, flying under the call sign Red Bandits, used this agility to lure American jets into slow-speed knife fights where their heavy 37mm cannons could tear a Phantom apart with a single hit. The MiG-17 forced the U.S. Navy to establish the Top Gun program to relearn the art of dogfighting, proving that in the right hands, an old airframe could still dominate the modern sky. Shenyang J-6 MiG-19 Farmer. While often overshadowed by its siblings, this Chinese-built copy of the Soviet MiG-19 was the first supersonic fighter to enter the North Vietnamese inventory. It was a brute of a machine, armed with 3 massive 30mm cannons that packed a far heavier punch than the missile-reliant American fighters of the era. The J-6 was notoriously difficult to maintain and fly, with engines that were prone to flaming out, yet it occupied a critical middle ground in the war. It was faster than the MiG-17, but could still outturn the heavier American Phantoms, allowing Vietnamese pilots to engage in high-speed slashing attacks that devastated U.S. formations, relying on technology over raw maneuverability. Next, MiG-21 Fishbed. This was the crown jewel of the North Vietnamese air defense and the primary nemesis of the U.S. Air Force. Sleek, delta-winged, and capable of reaching Mach 2, the MiG-21 was designed as a pure interceptor. It would scramble fast, strike hard, and vanish before the enemy could retaliate. Vietnamese pilots used the Silver Swallow tactic, guided by ground controllers to approach American bomber formations from below and behind, launching heat-seeking missiles and diving away before escorts could engage. Despite having a blind cockpit and short range, it produced more aces in Vietnam than any other aircraft, forcing the U.S. to completely overhaul their air combat training and proving that speed and surprise were the ultimate equalizers. Moving on, Ilyushin EL-28 Beagle. While it saw limited direct combat compared to the fighters, the presence of this Soviet twin-engine jet bomber forced the United States to divert significant resources to air defense. Capable of carrying a 3-ton payload, the EL-28 was the North's only true strategic threat, constantly fueling American fears of an air raid on air bases in South Vietnam or Thailand. While mostly kept in reserve as a deterrent, its mere existence on the tarmac in North Vietnam served as a psychological weapon, keeping U.S. commanders on edge and forcing them to maintain combat air patrols that burned fuel and pilot endurance without firing a shot. Captured A-37 Dragonfly. In the final chaotic days of the war, the North Vietnamese turned America's own weapons against the retreating forces. On April 28, 1975, a flight of captured South Vietnamese A-37 light attack jets, flown by North Vietnamese pilots and defectors, launched a devastating air raid on Tan Son Nhut Air Base. This attack destroyed several aircraft on the ground and caused panic during the final evacuation of Saigon. It was a symbolic and literal final blow, using U.S.-manufactured aircraft to bomb the very runway the Americans were using to flee the country, marking the definitive end of U.S. air superiority in the region. Next, Mile Mi-4 Hound. This piston-engined helicopter was the workhorse of North Vietnamese search and rescue operations. While American Jolly Green Giants are famous for rescuing downed pilots, the Mi-4 crews performed equally dangerous missions to retrieve their own aces from the jungles of Southeast Asia. It lacked the armor and turbine power of U.S. helicopters, but its rugged simplicity allowed it to operate in the humidity and rough terrain of Southeast Asia, where more delicate machinery failed. It was also used to transport sabotage teams behind enemy lines, proving that vertical envelopment wasn't just an American tactic. Moving on, Mile Mi-6 Hook. This was a monster of a machine, the largest helicopter in the world at the time, and a critical strategic asset. The VPAF used the massive lifting capacity of the Mi-6 to airlift MiG-17s and MiG-21s underneath its belly, moving them from damaged airfields to secret camouflage dispersal sites hidden in caves or dense forests. This capability completely baffled U.S. intelligence, who would bomb a runway to find fighter jets launching from it the very next day. The Mi-6 allowed the Air Force to play a giant shell game, ensuring that the U.S. could never fully destroy the North Vietnamese fighter fleet on the ground. Next, Shenyang J-5. Often mistaken for the Soviet MiG-17, the Chinese-built J-5 was a distinct and vital part of the North's inventory. As the war dragged on and Soviet supplies fluctuated due to political tensions, China stepped in to fill the gap with these robust fighters. They were stripped down and rugged, lacking even the basic radar of their Soviet counterparts, which made them lighter and slightly more agile in a visual dogfight. The J-5s were often flown by the most junior pilots in the final years of the war, used as bait to draw American fighters away from the more valuable MiG-21s, yet they still managed to score kills against unaware U.S. crews. The air war over Vietnam was a clash of philosophies as much as a clash of machines. The United States brought the future of aviation, computers, missiles, and speed, while North Vietnam brought the past and the present, stitched together with Soviet steel and unparalleled adaptability. By utilizing every airframe available, they created an integrated defense system that the world's greatest superpower could not break. Which of these underdog aircraft do you think was the most impressive? Was it the agile MiG-17 winning dogfights, or the primitive biplanes bombing radar sites? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into aviation history, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so